A return ticket to madness, a cosmic ass-kicking of a lifetime. Oh, where to begin? How do you do a write-up of walking hand in hand with madness? I'm not looking for an A grade in English here. I mean, there's going to be resurfaced words like nothingness, meaningless, and familiarity recurring over and over again because there's nothing else I'm armed with in this limited arsenal of vocabulary of mine, and I'm sure vast sections will make no sense whatsoever, so bear with me. Hopefully I can do this justice, but who cares anyway? This is all an illusion and you're not really real. After years and years of dieting on a wide-eyed cosmic wonder of, what is this all about? Spending many an evening microdosing on weed, meditating, trying in vain to desperately gain a profound insight on the workings of the universe, and about 1500 episodes of Joe Rogan, I had finally managed to gate crash and muscle in on my very own little party for one. I'm ready for this. This was everything I ever wanted, a date with the divine. I'd been giving it Billy Big Bollocks all week, reading an endless number of accounts on first-hand experiences and tales from the other side. Go heavy or go home was etched in my psyche. Ain't got no time for none of this geometric pattern bullshit. I want to be cannon straight into hyperspace, uncover infinite knowledge, and wax lyrical with He himself, God the Almighty. Like I said, I thought I was ready. It wouldn't take long to figure out I was not. Tonight was the night. The time had come. The universe delivered, and now I had to hold up my end of the bargain. Set and setting couldn't have been better. It was calm, well, as calm as it can be when you've arranged a return ticket to madness. The vibe was spiritual, deep, and quite thought-provoking. Trippy, relaxing music sounded from the four corners of the room. The lighting was soft, delicate even. The environment was comfortable, jovial at times, however there's no getting away from it. There was a sense of trepidation in the air. It was interesting to see how different people in the room were behaving to the looming uncertainty. Some were quiet, some were making wisecracks trying to break the tension, some wore an unnerved smile painted across their face. There was a sense of unity though, a sense that we were all in this together. Yes, we are going to places unknown, but at least we would be going together, well, kind of. Truth be known, I was with my girlfriend's friends, some of which I've never met, so admittedly this may have slightly added to my own little personal hell. Not to say I was completely uncomfortable or anything like that, but it did raise the apprehension knob up a notch than if the dynamics were reversed and I'd been with my circle of friends. Taking all this into consideration though, and looking back now, I really wasn't as apprehensive as I should have been. We went around the room each expressing what our intentions were. It was my turn and uttered some throwaway bullshit comment like wanting a positive experience or something. In truth, I just didn't want to sound too deep or woo-woo in front of the others. I mean, what am I going to say? I'm an anxious little boy man thing that generally feels inadequate as a human being when comparing myself to the Insta, Facebook, Twitter, and whatever else crap there is out there, and want to confront these demons of inadequacy in the misguided hope of living a better, happier, more fulfilled existence, belong in it. Plus my other half was there, and I'm still managing to keep up the charade of being someone that has his shit together. So yeah, all week I've been psyching myself up for an heroic dose, telling my other half to make sure I whack on 50 milligrams and take 3 hits. 3 hits, make sure I take 3 hits. Yet on the day, like the little boy man thing I so painstakingly obviously started to reevaluate my go heavy or go home vibe. We started light, with 1 hit. I held my breath and counted for 20 seconds, Ross from Friends style. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. I was thinking that I really should have clarified whether or not to throw the Mississippi thing into the mix before we started. I mean, was I really counting to 30 or 40 seconds or something instead? The smoke soaked into my lungs. I started vibrating, resonating, and it just continued to intensify. Patterns were forming in front of my eyes, lots of blues and blacks. I had this sense of familiarity, like I know this place. As I zoned in on the details of these shapes, an Azetsi-like face appeared with its mouth open. I found it pretty intimidating. I really didn't like it. Fuck, I thought. I knew I shouldn't have gone with the Mississippi thing. I was able to rationalize it to myself though. I was hallucinating. I was simply under the influence of DMT. I was going to be okay. All this is to be expected. Things started to calm down after that. I felt like I peaked. There was a sense of relief. I was struck with how seeing this Aztec face sparked some kind of, oh, I remember this feeling. It all felt eerily familiar and very tribal. We all sat and shared our experience, everyone else in the room seemingly having a real positive experience. I was just sat there thinking, fuck, why am I not positively shining right now like everyone else? I rationalized that this was purely a numbers thing, like some sadistic type of Russian roulette on steroids game. If someone was going to have a bad trip, it was bound to be me. I tried not to get too caught up in this. I didn't want to offload another shit ton of apprehension into the mix, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't leave a lingering doubt in my mind to the potential horrors to come. I kind of figured from this point on I'd be in for a rough ride. This time we went for 2 hits. Again I went with the no fucks given vibe. I sucked down on that bong with the biggest, deepest breath, held and counted for 20 seconds and quicker than you could say Mississippi. I got the vibrations searing through me and the patterns forming. It was mostly blues, blacks and golds. Again there was an Aztec feel to the scene, and again a sense of familiarity told you I'd use this word a lot. I felt I was traveling around viewing these shapes and patterns rather than being stationary. The feeling was starting to become a little overwhelming, like a shot of realization straight through the veins, informing me just how powerful this stuff is and how powerless I am against it. I was completely at its mercy. It could have done anything and everything it wanted. I had nothing. The bong was right in front of me again, arms and legs in the cart at all times. This is about to get bumpy, I thought. I went in for that second hit. Again, completely gun-ho I sucked down hard, man, took a deep breath and held for 20 seconds. The patterns intensified, the vibrations exploded throughout every atom of my body, the vibrations, the patterns, me, we were all one, dividing, then subdividing and so on. These red, earthly colors overlaid a white backdrop. I was pure vibration. This all initially started to feel incredibly orgasmic at first, like I was ejaculating. However, it quickly consumed me, completely overwhelmed me. Suddenly this orgasmic feeling resonated through every cell within. It was all too much. I panicked. I remember thinking, this is what God must feel like. I have no right to feel like this. This is not how it's meant to be. It was sensory overload. I was experiencing death. A face again appeared. It wasn't as intimidating or as sinister as the previous face from the previous hit. I would say it was more feminine than masculine, but can't be sure. This figure was blue, with long, black, scrapped back hair, with a gold headband and gold accessories around its neck. This being gave me a look, as if to say, "Oh, you think you're ready?" It was at this precise moment I knew I fucked up. Everything just exploded into something quite biblical. To quote Queen, there was literally thunderbolts and lightning, and believe me, it was very, very frightening. I felt like I was in the middle of the sea, in the most violent of storms, the chaos of the wind and the rain forming some kind of whirlpool, swirling round all around me, the lightning ripping through the midnight sky and the ferocious sound of thunder as it roared was deafening. I vaguely remember getting on my knees, throwing my hands in the air, looking up to the heavens shouting, "Surrender, surrender," in some kind of futile attempt to let go and get a handle on the situation in the middle of this vortex of craziness that ripped and tore my body to fragmented bits. After researching hours and hours of fellow psychonauts' experiences, I knew surrendering was key, but it was all in vain. I simply had absolutely no control where I was going. The chaos of the above ended so abruptly. I just killed myself. I was dead. I was sure of it. I was surrounded by complete and utter nothingness. Nothing existed other than white. No sound, not even the faint sound of silence existed, not even the color black. There was no light, there was just nothing, there was no meaning. I kept relaying the same message: what have I done? What have I done? The fear, the terror, the intense sorrow consumed me. This wasn't peering over the edge, taking a quick glimpse of insanity. This was more peering over the edge, losing my footing, falling into insanity and crashing with an almighty, intergalactic wallop, and insanity clutching me within its suffocating grip, constricting tighter and tighter until my mind cracked. I had a visual of me spilling over, decapitated, squirming around the floor, and any sanity just bleeding out of me in glitter. This was all very Begotten-esque. If you've never seen the film before, YouTube, Begotten, God kills himself, and this will give you an idea of what I was experiencing. Harrowing doesn't come close. Strangely, when I come round, my girlfriend noticed glitter in my hair. I kid you not. Spooky, right? I vaguely remembered having an idea of family, of loved ones, of experiencing love. What an amazing idea, I thought, but all that stuff didn't seem real. It felt like an illusion. Where I was right now was the one, true reality. I was so sad, I was so alone here. Slowly the sense that I may have experienced love once before started to resonate faintly somewhere deep inside me. Did I or didn't I? I was so confused, I couldn't be sure. I felt like I was at the beginning of the universe, the dawn of time before anything existed. How could love possibility have existed before this point? But I couldn't shake the feeling off. The vague, distant memories started to intensify. Maybe I did love once, but I just chose to give all that up. I had a family, a son, a partner. The guilt washed over me. Did I really have everything I ever wanted once? Why wasn't I happy? Why did I decide to give it up? Was searching for answers more important than my loved ones? I was in the blankest of canvases, I felt incredibly lonely, lost. I remember thinking what a nice idea it was to have individuals, to have separation, to have people to talk to share things with, to laugh and to love. It was an idea, a nice idea, it just wasn't real. Suddenly there was a block, then 2 blocks on top of each other, then 4, 8 and so on. It created this stick figure that was multiplying and creating shapes, reproducing, and going beyond 3D, contorting in positions I just couldn't comprehend, each block representing a different color. It reminded me of the Italia 90 stick figure that used to run across the screen whenever a team scored a goal. This stick figure just started to spill out everywhere, creating backdrops and scenery. It became a life form. My attention was diverted momentarily as I sensed or remembered the bond I had with my sister, how I watched her as a baby, how I watched her grow into a woman, and how she was a part of me. We had divided from the same stuff, we are one and the same. I could hear the constant sounds of rustling and slithering as single-celled organisms were multiplying, dividing and subdividing, starting to take form all around me. Being overcome with the fear of having no meaning and the terror of being alone, lost for all of eternity, I fought desperately hard to start to create. I didn't want to be alone anymore, I wanted to have meaning, I needed to create. I squirmed and thrashed violently, struggling desperately, in an attempt to kickstart life into existence. All the things I thought that were such a nice idea, family, loved ones, experiencing love, that's what I wanted it all back, and I fought tirelessly to create it. I felt like I was witnessing the beginning, the time before anything existed. I watched how the first building blocks of life were formed from a single idea. My idea. Then in some sort of astronomical heartbeat, it just exploded into this 5th dimension realm, with vibrant colors of purples, yellows, silvers, greens and blues, in a hippie-themed theme park of craziness, where everything was connected. I say 5th dimension because I was browsing on my phone the day after, typing DMT into Google Images, and literally shuddered like someone had walked over my grave when I come across an image that read the 5th dimension, excitedly telling my other half, I was here last night, I was here, this is the place. There was music playing, but it was completely vibrational, and it was a part of me. I was connected to it, I was connected to what I was seeing, everything was connected to each other, it was complete unity. It felt quite heavenly, but not in the traditional sense. There was no fluffy, white clouds, no angelic type beings, golden gates, etc. I mean, I'm struggling to find another word other than psychedelic. But that's how it was. I had a sense that this was heaven, or that I've returned home, that familiar vibe again, and felt a little comforted in comparison from the nightmare of solitude I had just come from. I viewed in disbelief because nothing made sense. Again I started to feel a little orgasmic. What can I say, it's an Italian thing. And again, it all became too overwhelming. The intense, powerful feeling of utter love, peace and completeness in this place was just too much. I remember kind of slumping down in excessiveness, feeling guilty for accepting the over-excesses of goodness. I felt gluttonous and greedy. This was all too much of a good thing. Reverting to type 1 tried to apply a sense of logic to the illogical. I thought I'd gone insane. This was a one-way ticket to Crazy Town. Surely I couldn't come back from this. This was a carnival of sheer madness, some sort of cartoon town, Roger Rabbit style. I vaguely remember smiles in this realm and a friendliness. The feeling was a complete extremity of spectrums, with one side being a sense of returning home and I know this place, I've been here before, and the other being, what the fuck is this mayhem all around me, make it stop. Make it stop. Disbelief both in equal measure. I mean, it's a complete contradiction, but hey, you start counting your seconds in Mississippi's when smoking DMT and making sense ain't going to be too high on your agenda, right? I went from absolute nothingness to a completeness in a cosmic drop of a hat. Looking back now, I should have embraced this setting more. This place could have been beautiful, the most blissful experience I've ever known. However, the previous experience was hard to shake off, man. It rattled me to the core, it completely crushed me. I didn't trust anything, I didn't think I was coming back, I just wanted everything to be over, I wanted my perfect little life back. I somehow managed to open my eyes and started to become a little more grounded. The others in the room were laughing. I become very aware of the laughter in the hippie-themed theme park from above. Coming back round, I suddenly felt extremely self-conscious as all eyes in the room were on me. I wasn't out of the woods yet though. There was this earthly, orange-like, sandy, desert filter overlaid over everything. I also was very aware that I wasn't in the same place as when I started. Physically speaking, it all resembled the trippy scene in the teepee with the American Indian in Natural Born Killers or some kind of Rob Zombie video. I felt as though I was able to peel back the masks of those around me, like I could tap into their soul and see people's true self. The woman opposite me had this Amazonian, Warrior princess vibe about her. Strong, unshakable, ready for war. I mumbled, I can still see visuals. To her, she replied so nonchalantly, you will for a bit. Her calmness brought a sense of perspective to everything and was reassuring. Next to her was a guy. You could see the concern for me in his eyes. It unnerved me, but he was filled with warmth and it was genuine. I remember saying, that was intense, as he nodded in agreement. Intense. Fucking understatement of this dimension. Another looked quite sinister. Her face distorted and was quite demon-like. She was the more animated within the group from the off. Her laugh was more a cackle or a screech. It cut right through me. I was still so vulnerable in this state and so mentally fragile. I looked for yet more reassurance, so turned to my other half sat right next to me. Her ever-present beaming smile looked forced. I couldn't make out whether she was concerned or embarrassed. By this point I figured I'd give myself 50-50 on whether or not I'd be single come the end of the night. There were no visuals when looking at her, however. For that I was grateful. She was my anchor back to reality. She really helped ground me. There were serpent-type figures, slithering around, not detailed enough be actual snakes, just more of a serpent feel. The movement, I mean, the whole creation story, the tree of knowledge, the serpent tempting Eve, there's a vibe that's eerily similar. There's got to be a link somewhere between Bible stories and the psychedelic realm. As the effects started to wear off, it became apparent that I just didn't lie there, motionless and go deep within myself. All I could hear from the group was, surrender, surrender. Oh shit, I said that out loud. I said sheepishly, cue the hysterics. Apparently, I got up on all fours, before falling to one side. I don't remember this in the slightest, but figured as I was thrashing around in the vortex of crazy it must have been during here, I decided to perform downward facing dog. The relief of coming back washed over me immensely. I had died, my mind had cracked, but much worse than that I was lost forever in an empty vacuum of meaningless. The outlook was so bleak. The initial lesson wasn't too hard to decipher, gratitude. I was so grateful in that moment, even though I still hadn't completely oriented myself and fully found my bearings. The fact I was coherent, surrounded by others was enough for me at that point. Gratitude. Hearing it loud and clear, I had been truly humbled. I had this overwhelming urge to latch onto my girlfriend, squeeze so hard and never let go. I was a scared little boy in that moment, reminiscent of a 6-year-old playing in the park, whose attention is solely on playing but who looks up frequently for reassurance that his mum is always looking on until the moment she's not there anymore and being frozen in fear. Man, did I want to latch on, but I didn't. I played it cool. There's no getting away from it. I had a bad trip. It was obvious to the whole room. My other half told me the color drained from my face, like I'd seen a ghost when I come back round. Geez, if only. The guy leading proceedings urged me to dive in again, even if it was just light. He was adamant. He really advised against leaving tonight's proceedings on a negative experience. My mind was broken. I needed time to piece it back together, to figure out what the fuck just happened, but I felt an increasing pressure to be a good sport about things too. The idea of sitting out to deconstruct and make sense of the unexplainable before I jumped back in at the deep end and skydived back into madness proved to be hopeless, and before I knew it that fucking bong appeared right before my eyes again. Again, I watched patterns forming, but they were much more triangular, almost pyramid-like than before. There was a heavy Egyptian feel to this trip. A red, orange, earthy filter consumed everything, and again this familiar, homely, tribal impression overwhelmed my senses as I shook with vibration. I just couldn't shake off the feel of death. It just lingered with every trip, like I'd died and become reborn an endless number of times before. It's very much like, oh death, we meet again, I've been expecting you. I did gain further insight during this trip. As with the previous 2 trips, everything felt euphoric initially until I started to feel like I'd lost control, questioning what was happening. That's when the panic would set in and influence the trip, magnifying my emotions. I could see the negativity. It was me manifesting it, sabotaging my own experience, trying to wrestle control back like some duel to the death against a cosmic anaconda that I'd never win. Granted, it's not quite suffering the insights of witnessing the first building blocks of life unfold right before your eyes, but there was still a valuable lesson here. Let go. Just before the night drawn to a close, the group reduced to just 4. The setting was much calmer and more tranquil. There was less apprehension. It was peaceful. You could feel it. My girlfriend took 2 huge hits. I watched over her, holding her hand, stroking her arm, a little concerned, having just been to hell and back myself. I really didn't want that for her, but if that girl is one thing, it's fearless. I noticed a little while before that she had a white feather stuck to her. Of course, there would be a logical explanation for this, but I held on to the romantic idea that someone or something was watching over her and clung on to the feeling she'd be alright. Her face would contort, grimace or almost like scowl on occasion, looking as though she was struggling to take in the finer details of whatever she was viewing before breaking out in wonder and amazement in sporadic whispers of, "Oh my God," she looked so peaceful and relaxed. She opened her eyes and returned with stories of being in an intergalactic viewing tower, somewhere deep in a heavenly hyperspace setting, with a bright, almost godlike light shining down on her, feeling the presence of something profound right beside her but not quite being able to catch a glimpse of it. I was so happy for her. I really didn't want her to experience anything like what I did, especially as all this DMT dive was very much driven by me, with my obsessive, overenthusiasm to unwrap the meaning of everything. I sensed her apprehension straight off the bat, so was more than relieved when she returned radiating positivity and speaking of profound insights and enlightenment, and was a little envious too. Fucking hell, I thought. I knew I should have gone with the spiritual enlightenment intention, as I rolled my eyes. Joking aside though, I wouldn't have swapped my experience for the world. It was my experience, solely for me, and as the hours and days tick by the realization hit me that this was just what I needed. Is it too early to use words like profound and life-changing to describe my experience? I don't know, it certainly feels like it was, but maybe the dust needs to settle a little first. I've had counseling several times and found the real work starts in the days, the weeks and the months following the sessions, exploring the links and the triggers for yourself. That's when things come together and make sense. I think this will be entirely the same, or maybe it will fade away into insignificance like some sort of vivid dream you wake up from, sweating, breathing heavy, stubbornly refusing to accept it wasn't real, but simply melts away into nothingness over the course of time. I've frequently found myself lost in my own thoughts since having these momentary glimpses of the other side and shudder and recoil at the horrors that I experienced, but then get this warm, sincere feeling that I met up with an old friend, who didn't sugarcoat anything for me, who laid me bare and gave me some harsh truths. It's weird because I feel extremely privileged and indebted to the experience despite its harrowing nature. I don't expect anyone to understand, how can I? I still don't understand myself yet. The day after, just minding my own business, this image of an older, proud woman just popped into my head. Something pulled at the heartstring and got this overwhelming feeling to call my mum, just to check in, to make sure she was okay. The love I'm feeling right now for my family and my friends is pretty significant. The bond I have for my partner since, from my perspective at least, has hit dizzying heights, something I never thought I was capable of after spending a lifetime of keeping people at arm's length. Attachment issues 101. I guess we all have our cross to bear in some form or another. I disagree that this is for anyone though. It should not be taken lightly, it should be respected and treated with caution. I just don't know how delving into the madness you can ever come back the same person. For some ignorance may be bliss, and I totally respect that. If you're reading this, then you've no doubt read countless other posts regarding first-hand accounts of DMT, mushrooms, ayahuasca, etc., so assume you're familiar with the whole "it doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you need" vibe. Well, DMT gave me a real good ass kicking, and it really wasn't what I wanted, but it sure feels like it's what I need.